Hello there, everybody. Welcome to yet another episode of Before We Go. My name is Bill Woodcock,
And I'm Steve Hunt. Hello, everybody.
and the red is purely coincidental today. Although, and I can't even make a parallel between red and today's topic, but just for you out there in viewer and or listener land, we talk about all things Generation X. Ideally, oh, actually, Steve, that reminds me, our seventh episode is going to be a topic that might be of interest. We're going to talk about the contrasts between about how we sought approval then and now, because I'm going to ask you all to like and subscribe to our YouTube channel called Before We Go. But 40 years ago, Steve, we sought approval in many different ways, didn't we?
Yes, we did. There's an old saying about it's better to ask for forgiveness than ask for permission or something to that effect. I can't remember the saying, but I think we were much more the ask for permission, whereas today I think it's basically do it and hope it works out okay. So absolutely, how we handle things, at least in my very military family, is radically different from my very not military household of today.
It's not what the kids do today, Steve. But anyway, more on that next week. This week, we have the first in a long series, let's hope, of character studies. And by characters, I'm talking about cartoon characters. And so, Steve, our first study is, and I'm dropping into the voice even now, is the Warner Brothers cartoon creation of one Wild E. Coyote, Supar-Genius. Steve, what are your favorite Coyote memories?
Well, that's one of my favorites, and I will tell you, every once in a while on Twitter, or yes, I call it Twitter, X, and whatever it is. But
We're
it is
old. We're not expected to call anything by their proper name.
hey, like my man said in Come to America, his mama named Clay. I'm gonna call him Clay, so I'm gonna call it Twitter. Um, every once in a while, I will use a GIF file in response to somebody, and it basically is the Wile E. Coyote when he hands the business card, and it says Wile E. Coyote genius. And I usually do that if somebody says something totally stupid, and that's kind of my snarky response to it. But I use Wile E. Coyote to this day. So the whole episode where he is Wile E. Coyote, super genius, even at the end as he's getting blown to hell for the fifth time in the episode, as the show is wrapping up, and his last words are Wile E. Coyote, super genius. That is probably my favorite of Wile E. Coyote, of the many that I love about that character. And the
That
fact
that
that we
that
got introduced to good old Acme, because was there anything Acme did not make?
no, Acme made it all.
Yeah.
So Steve, I'm assuming that you are very familiar with the Coyote and the Roadrunner.
Oh yeah. First of all, let's talk about the Roadrunner. Now, the Roadrunner might be the most famous cartoon character in history that never really had dialogue. His dialogue was beep beep and sticking out his tongue. That was it. Now, if he wanted to get a message across, he would hold up a sign that said, "This guy's really dumb, isn't he?" His dialogue was always a sign. He never spoke. So, for all the good work that Mel Blanc put in at Warner Brothers, he didn't have to do a whole lot with Roadrunner because there wasn't a whole lot to go with. So, that's my first memory of Roadrunner is, show me a character that is that famous that never spoke. And then obviously there was a Saturday morning, Roadrunner cartoon. And by the way, for those of you who are listening, Bill and I, we have a very brief pregame where we will talk about the episode, and every once in a while we'll riff about things about the episode. Thank goodness you guys missed today's pregame because we both remember vividly the theme song of the Roadrunner Saturday morning, depending on the time of day, cartoon. And we were singing Roadrunner, the coyote after you, Roadrunner, if he catches you, you're through. And we literally riffed our way through the song. And trust me, folks, be thankful you didn't hear it. But just note, after all these years, Bill and I could both still click off that damn song.
That coyote, Steve, is always a crazy clown. All he ever does is chase the Roadrunner down. Roadrunner
Roadrunner,
never bothers anyone.
anyone.
Just running down the highway, Steve, is his idea of having fun.
Fun. And there you go, ladies and gentlemen. But yeah, that was part of the whole Saturday afternoon, Saturday morning. Sometimes it bleeds the afternoon, but mostly Saturday morning. I keep getting into afternoons, but Saturday morning was the whole Warner Brothers, Looney Tunes. There was that whole song with, remember the song with all the characters, da, 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 hit the lights, on with the show, this is it. Remember that one? We'd have all the characters and they'd all march along and
They all
I
do
mean,
a big dancing line.
yes. So that was and Roadrunner was part of that whole, Saturday morning routine. And I think anybody who's ever watched a Roadrunner and a Coyote cartoon will have to admit you wanted the Coyote to win just once. I mean, you were waiting for that episode when the Coyote would actually pull it off, whether he was using a Acme, speed bump or an Acme net or an Acme nuclear missile launcher or the Acme hammer. You were hoping that Acme would send the Coyote something that would allow him to catch this fool. But of course, he never did. But just the things that to me, the Roadrunner's not the most exciting character in the world. All he did was just run and not get caught. It was all about, to me, the Coyote and the crazy, insane things he would do and how badly they went. Which, of course, gets us into the whole idea of how violent television cartoons were when we were kids. That's a whole other, like you said, a whole other subject. But to me, the watching Roadrunner versus Coyote was all about the Coyote and what he was going to try and how badly he was going to fail. It really wasn't so much about the Roadrunner, who again didn't speak, said beep beep, held up an occasional sign, stuck out his tongue and ran. Not really the most exciting character in the world.
I'm a fan of the Roadrunner, aren't you?
He's okay, but I watched the show to see the Coyote and what he was going to get himself into. The Roadrunner was just kind of, he was necessary because Coyote had to try to catch something, but it was really, to me, more about the Coyote.
Okay, fair enough. I got some stuff here for you.
Uh-oh.
So first off, to your point about best silent character in all of cartoondom, another episode, Mr. Steve Hunt,
Mm-hmm.
the Pink Panther.
I forgot about him. See, I was
So,
thinking Warner
and,
Brothers, Looney Tunes. I was
well,
thinking
and,
a
and,
little
and
bit
Pink
of
Panther was what? Friz Freeling. He was kind
yeah.
of out there.
Yes.
So,
I was thinking
but
Sid Barty
that's
Croft. I was
okay.
all over. Yeah, I missed
That's
that one.
okay. And you used to enjoy watching the Coyote, but the Coyote, in my opinion, had an even more devious antagonist than the Roadrunner, and
Oh,
that would be one Bugs Bunny.
really?
You
Okay.
don't remember the Bugs Bunny and Coyote cartoons?
Well, the Supar-Genius was I believe that was a Bugs Bunny cartoon because I don't think the Coyote spoke in the Roadrunner series. I think his
Well, the
dialogue was
Coyote most definitely spoke to Bugs Bunny. So I'm
right. I
not
think that
talking about the ones where the Coyote was actually had like another name and he hung out with
Mhm,
the big sheepdog. I'm talking about the ones when they were in the desert and Bugs Bunny was standing in for the
mhm.
Coyote for the Roadrunner.
Oh, see, I don't remember that. You'll have to talk about that because I do
Okay, well,
not.
feel free. Oh, absolutely. Let me allow me to elucidate. So always the Bugs Bunny Coyote episodes started with some sort of introduction in which the coyote was attempting to make rabbit stew out of poor Bugs.
Oh, wow.
And
Okay.
at one point he called Bugs Bunny Rabbit Stupidus idioticus as
Oh, my.
his species and genus. And so, and Bugs Bunny, would be zooming down the road and you would think it would be the road runner, and then all of a sudden it would freeze frame and he's like, yeah, standing in today for the road runner. And so then he would meet the coyote, and the
Mhm.
coyote would announce his desire for rabbit stew. It would get to the point where the coyote would go up outside Bugs Bunny's hole, put down a picnic, and Bugs would come up from the other side. What you doing, Doc? I am preparing rabbit stew. And it would be rabbit stew. And of course that was always contingent upon catching Bugs Bunny, which
Right.
of course the coyote never did. Not that he didn't ever try. I mean, there was one of those epic episodes where the coyote failed only as only the coyote could fail. And in fact, couldn't that be said true of any episode with the coyote? But
Mhm.
where the coyote had put a target on the road for Bugs Bunny to run under, and the coyote had timed it perfectly. So he had the alchemy anvil, which somehow the coyote could lift, and he dropped it on the target for Bugs Bunny. But yet, Bugs Bunny came up behind him, tapped him on the shoulder. The coyote turned around. Bugs Bunny had the target, put it indeed over the instead over the coyote's head, and then the anvil would come, and then off would go the entire side of the cliff with the coyote on it. They would crash to the ground with that you would see whenever the
Yep.
coyote smashed into the pavement.
Yes.
Then he got up and then put up the little parasol, because then another rock hit him. And then he crawled out from under that, and that was hit by a bus. So it just never worked out well for the coyote. Not that the coyote didn't try all sorts of other things.
Yes.
So to your point, yes, there was hyper violence. It's also sexuality in these. So there was one time when the coyote bought a Acme robot female rabbit, and 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 walked it out to Bugs Bunny in order to lure Bugs Bunny back to the Supar-Genius's lair. However, Bugs fought back with a robot female coyote, who then visited the coyote. His head then blew up, and then blew up the coyote.
Oh,
So
my.
there was one. I got more. I got much more if
I
you
do
want
not remember
this.
these showdowns, but this is just I'll have to look these up because I did not catch these. That's a riot, man.
So the Roadrunner bought a Univac, bought a 1960s era computer, and had push buttons about what type of animal he would try to track. And he pressed rabbit, and when, next week, tomorrow, right now. And then it would be aware, and it would be in a hole, and then the UNIVAC would spit out instructions as to how to catch the rabbit, like lure the rabbit with dynamite, or with carrot disguised as dynamite, or with something else. That's where the female rabbit came from. It was an idea from the UNIVAC. And then, needless to say, all of these UNIVAC ideas would fail. And then at the end of the episode, Bugs Bunny would appear in the screen of the UNIVAC, and indeed he was controlling the UNIVAC all along.
Jesus.
And then there was the episode where, the Wile E. Coyote had just had enough. he had just literally had enough. So he built a 10 billion volt super magnet and, and then pointed it towards Bugs's hole and used a Acme iron carrot to lure
Oh,
Bugs. So he dropped the iron carrot because that's what you do. You buy your iron carrots always from Acme.
oh yeah.
He dropped it into the hole. He heard Bugs say, "Oh, a carrot! Wow, that was a good carrot. Lots of minerals." And
That
then
sounds
he
like fun.
ran back to his lair and turned on the 10 billion volt super magnet. And of course, the carrot came, uneaten and smacked into the magnet. And Bugs popped his head out of the hole and said, "How, maroon guy'll never learn." And then all of a sudden, Bugs Bunny's mailbox came flying off, almost hit Bugs in the head, and then goes to the magnet. And then next thing you know, Bugs's frying pan and other metal goods come out and of his hole, and they all go into the magnet.
Mm.
And then after that, you know, Bugs is like, this guy's not careful. He's gonna hurt himself. And then he turns around and goes back into the hole. And then here come like cars, buses, pieces of barbed wire,
Yeah.
road signs, all of this goes into the hole. All
Well,
sticks to the magnet.
it's a
Then
10 million volt magnet. Of course it does.
billion volt magnet, Steve. Where does it end? It doesn't end there. Next, an ocean liner.
Oh god.
The, the ocean liner comes and sticks to the magnet. The Eiffel Tower comes sliding across and sticks to the magnet. Then Bugsy's looking up, come satellites. Satellites are coming out of space and sticking to the magnet. And then at the very end, it's like Saturn V looking rocket comes down. And Steve, of course, all you see is this rocket with a big red head penetrating the hole of the Coyote. Oh my God, I had no idea Warner Brothers was so phallic, but
Oh
it was. And so when the rocket penetrates into the whole thing goes off
Jesus.
in a massive explosion, which
Oh,
had to have been hydrogen bomb proportions when you're thinking about it in real life, because
oh,
all of that was in the Coyote's hole.
oh my
So
god.
I will submit to you that the there's nothing wrong with the Roadrunner. Roadrunner's fun. Roadrunner is a great character in his own right. But for sheer violence,
Mm-hmm.
shock value, and humor, the Bugs Bunny stands as the greatest antagonist that Wile E. Coyote ever had.
Yeah, I will have to agree with you because Roadrunner never pulled off any of that. That's for dang sure. But you did mention, Bill, the episode that Wiley had with the sheepdog, and I love that one as well because if you remember, they were buddies. They had their lunch pails. They punched the clock to start the day, and then they basically spent the entire. It was like morning, Sam, and I forget the coyote's name in the episode. But it was like morning, morning. They punch a clock, and then they basically spend all day rumbling big time. And at the end of the day, they punch out. They're like, "All right, good night. See you tomorrow," and off they go. I thought that episode was a riot.
Yeah, there was I can't remember the Coyote's name in that either. It was like Sam and Frank or
Yeah,
something like
yeah.
that. It was some normal name. But and that was a good episode. But I got to get back to this whole Bugs Bunny
Well,
Roadrunner thing.
Bugs. Well, I mean, you
And
talk
I got
about
to tell
bugs.
you, and I see a big distinction that just occurred to me here between the Roadrunner and Bugs Bunny. I mean, Roadrunner was always out to trick the coyote.
Yeah,
Was always out to fool him, was just out to show that he was faster and
right.
smarter and all of that stuff. He never, I mean, he would let the coyote get hoisted on his own petard. He
Right.
would let the coyote's foolishness of his own plans be his undoing. Bugs just wanted to F the coyote up.
Well, no, Bugs wasn't having it. Bugs was
Bugs
not
was
having it.
like, "Oh yeah," and just went at it,
Yes.
and just, I mean, he never took offensive action against the coyote, but he would give what the coyote
Yeah.
gave. He would take what the coyote gave and give it back to him with interest, and
Yeah.
that interest didn't work well in the coyote's account. That interest busted the coyote's bank.
Well, to be fair, you're talking about a comparison when you talk about Roadrunner versus Bugs Bunny between a solid character and a good foil for the Coyote, which was a really great character from the folks at Warner Brothers, and Bugs Bunny, who should be, in my view, on the Mount Rushmore of all-time great cartoon characters. So it's a hard comparison for the Roadrunner because, as you said, good character, and I don't dislike the Roadrunner. Again, for me, it was because of I watched because of the craziness that was the Coyote, but again, you're comparing the Roadrunner versus Bugs Bunny, who is, you know, an all-time great. I mean, there name me name me the characters, the cartoon characters that are greater than Bugs Bunny. I mean, Bugs was like that. So, he Bugs Bunny that whole episode up. You can't compare it because you're right. It wasn't like he was going offensive, but his defense was a pretty damn good offense against the Coyote or anybody
And
else.
the coy and I will say the coyote upped his game on that too.
Yeah.
So, at one point I remember in one episode, he said something to Bugs Bunny to the effect of, you should do well to just stop wasting your time now and get in the pot because I am a super genius and you could barely pass the entrance exam for kindergarten. And it was like, really arrogant prick.
Yeah.
And so you just have to watch the coyote get effed up. And
Yeah.
it just had to happen. It just had to go down like that. Yeah, I mean, Bugs was not having any of this. Whether it was in the forest or in the desert,
Mhm.
he just proved to be better. Not that he won everyone. There was one time
Mhm.
where he was zooming along and he was depending upon, of course, Acme speed pills to keep up a a roadrunner type velocity, and then he ran out of speed pills. The coyote actually did catch him, tie
Mhm.
him up, and was threatening to make rabbit ear stew out of Bugs. To which Bugs used his ear to set forth a Rube Goldberg like machine that entailed use of wine bottle corks, a spoon, keys, and a
Mhm.
Murphy bed in order to free Bugs from the coyote so he could spring, still tied up to a stick, back into his
Mhm.
hole.
Yeah, and I don't want to get too off on Bugs. I know we're here. We're talking about the Coyote and the Roadrunner, but Bugs is just. I mean, you look at his. You and I are both big wrestling fans, of course. And we talk about great programs between wrestlers, and you are showing your fandom by your shirt. If you want to show the fans
No,
your.
I don't want to show the fans my
Okay.
shirt.
All right,
It's
so
a
you're
Rowdy Roddy Piper shirt.
so you're sporting a Piper shirt, and Bugs' program with the Coyote, his program with Elmer Fudd, his one with Marvin the Martian, which is another funny one. So Bugs elevates stuff to a whole different level. But the Coyote, I think he's one of those characters that does not get enough credit for how good he was. And we've talked about with Bugs, we talked about with the Roadrunner, we talked about with the Sheepdog. Um, the Coyote was just one of those characters. People, they'll talk about Bugs and Daffy and Elmer, and even some people talk about the Roadrunner before they talk about the Coyote. And Wile E is that dude, and I think he definitely deserves more love. I don't put him on the Mount Rushmore of my favorite cartoon characters, but he certainly is one of those characters who you got to give some love to because he was really good and he was very entertaining. He was entertaining as hell.
Well, let's talk a little pop psychology for these last 5 minutes or so, and actually talk about the Coyote character.
Hmm.
I mean, yes, the big bulk of the Coyote episodes were with the Roadrunner,
Hmm.
but remember also, to your point, there was very little dialogue. In some episodes, there would be literally none,
Yeah, true.
and so it was all very minimalist.
Hmm.
And so it was good to have episodes that always set the scene, where every once in a while the coyote would talk and he would take that attitude and air about him of super genius. But what was the message behind that? It was, acting like a know-it-all, acting
Hmm.
arrogant, is can be your downfall.
Yeah.
So that's what, as a kid, you kind of took away from that,
Hmm.
and the Roadrunner, he just kind of had a fun, joyful, happy to be here, happy to
Yeah.
be alive personality. And, the message that I'd always got from those cartoons was that if all you are is sad and sober and serious,
Hmm.
that's all your life became.
Yeah.
If you had fun, you know, your life could be fun. Not
Hmm.
that your life can be all fun, but your life also can't be all serious.
You're right, and you also can't be a know-it-all. To your point, I mean, that was the Coyotes. His whole thing was he thought he was smarter than everybody else, and it turns out he was kind of dumb. And so I think that was another you touched on it a little bit, but I think that was another lesson of you know being an arrogant jerk who thinks you know everything does not pay. And in the end, you think you're a winner, but you're not. So, that was the thing about the cartoons I think of yesterday that we talk about is, especially as adults, when you look back at them, there were definitely some lessons there. Um, it wasn't always good versus evil. It was sometimes something as simple as if you're a jerk, you're going to get your comeuppance. Don't be a jerk. Be the roadrunner who's just this friendly animal that just wants to run around and hang out and chill. Sometimes that's enough. So there were definitely some lessons in there, and there was absolutely some violence. That's for dang sure. But good times. Again, much love to Wile E. Coyote. He may not be a super genius, but he's a hell of a lot of fun.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Mad props to the Coyote. And to your point, these were absurdly violent
Yeah, they were.
cartoons. Every last one of them. However, those cartoons also epitomize what's called cartoon violence
Yes.
because literally one cannot drop an anvil on someone else's head. One
Yeah.
cannot one cannot break off a piece of a cliff and drop it on somebody. But
Yeah.
I did learn from that a parasol could not stop an oncoming bus.
Absolutely not. And the one thing I'll also say about the Coyote, while we're giving him one last bit of love, he was lovable in his own way. Like there was a party that felt sorry when he got his behind kicked. Did anybody ever feel sorry for Tom when he was going after Jerry? I think most people were like, "Screw Tom, let Jerry do Jerry." But I had a soft spot for the Coyote that I did
Well,
not
now
have
that
for
you're mixing
antagonists
in the
like
Walter
Tom.
Lantz cartoons,
Yeah,
yes, there were some occasions where I did feel sorry for Tom.
yeah,
There are also sometimes that, yes, like you said earlier on, you kind of wish you would see the Coyote win, and what the hell would he have done with the Roadrunner had he caught him?
right. So
So
good stuff.
good stuff, Steve. But Coyote v. Bugs, greater than Coyote v. Roadrunner. I'm just gonna say,
I'll be watching. I got to check this
you
out
need
now.
to go. You need to go YouTube that shit up and go look it up, man. It's good stuff. Anyway, we are at the end of our episode. Thank you so much for watching and or listening. If you're watching this on the YouTube, Feel free to like and subscribe.
Absolutely.
Gotta say that nowadays.
Absolutely,
All
but
right, folks.
definitely like and subscribe because, we'll be dropping episodes on the regular, so you'll know when they're coming out, and you'll know what we're up to.
As they say, that's all, folks, for
There
another
it is.
edition of But Before We Go. For Steve, I'm Bill. Have a great one, everyone. Take care.